Hello there. Let us solve another problem, another transportation problem using Vogel's approximation method. So first let's go through the problem. A company has three production facilities, P1, P2 and P3 with production capacity of 7, 10 and 18 units per week of a product respectively. These units are to be shipped to four warehouses D1, D2, D3 and D4 with the requirements of 5, 8, 7 and 15 units per week respectively. The transportation costs per unit from factories to warehouses are given in the table below. So here you have the four warehouses and the factories supplying to the warehouses. Using Vogel's approximation method, find out the optimal shipping plan for the company. So we have to find out what is the initial basic feasible solution. All right, so now what is your capacity? This would be a factories P1, P2, P3 and your requirement or demand. So 20, 70, 40, 30, 35, 12, 50, 40, 60, 15, 60 and 25. Now your demand is 5, 8, 7, 15 and your capacity or supply is 7, 10, 18, 7, 10 and 18. Okay, now first find out if this is a balanced problem or not. Okay, now how do you find out if this is a balanced problem? The total demand has to be equal to the total capacity. Now, so 5 plus 8 plus 7 plus 15, that is 35. 7 plus 10 plus 18, this is also 35. So since the total demand is equal to total capacity 35, this problem is balanced. Now find out the number of allocations, column plus row minus 1. Now how many columns are there? 4 plus row, 3 rows minus 1. So 4 plus 3 is 7, 7 minus 1 equal to 6 allocations. So I have to be 6 allocations. Alright, now next step is find out the penalties. Now what is the penalties? The penalties is nothing but the difference, okay, the difference between the least cost cell and the second least cost cell in any row or column. Alright, so let's start with D1, which is the cell with the least cost, 20. The cell with the second least cost is 40. So 40 minus 20 is 20. Now here D2, which is the least cost, 12. Second least cost, 30. So this is 30 minus 12, 18. Same thing here, 40 and 50, this is 10. Now 15 and 25, 10. Now with the rows, which is the least cost here, 15, cell with the least cost, 15 and 20. So difference of that is 5. Then 35 and 40, again 5, 12 and 25, that is 13. Okay, so we found out the penalties. Now next is find out which is the cell that has the, which is the highest penalty here, 20, right? This is the highest penalty. Now within this column, find out the cell with the least cost. The cell with the least cost is 20. All right, highest penalty is 20. The least cost, the cell with the least cost is P1 D1, which is 20. So allocate. How much will you allocate to that? Your demand is 5, capacity is 7. So you will allocate how much? You'll allocate 5. Since your capacity is is greater than the demand, you can allocate 5 here. So we are left with 0 here, and here we are left with 2. Now cancel this, because we've met the demand of D1. Next. This will be 0, this will be 8, 7, 15, 18, 10, 2. Okay, now we've already allocated this cell. Now find out the penalties. Okay, here we don't have to find out the penalty anymore. Now this will be 18, 12 and 30. This will be 40 and 50, 10. This will also be 10. Now this will be 15 and 30. So this is 15. This will be 35, 45. This will be 12 and 25, 13. So which is the highest penalty? 18. Okay, so within this column here, find out the cell with the least cost. It will be P3, D2, this cell here. Alright, so allocate how much? What is the demand? 8. Your capacity or supply is 18. So we can allocate 8 here. So we are left with 10. Alright, so cancel this. Again. Alright, now again find out the penalties. So these two we don't need to find out. Here this will be 10. This will also be 10. This will be 35. It will be 20 and 35. Okay, so we have two penalties here of the same 35 and 35. So you can take any one. Okay, let's take this. Okay, corresponding to row P1. Find out the cell with the least cost. This is the one. Okay, so what is the supply? Capacity 2, but the demand is 15. So we can only allocate 2 here. All right. Okay. So we find out the penalty. This we don't need to find out. This will be 20. This will be 35. Again 20 and 35. Take any one. Okay, we found out the penalties. Now take anyone. You have two penalties here, 35, 35. You can take anyone. Say, let's say we take this, which corresponds to row P3. Okay, this is the cell with the least cost. So what is demand here? 13, but the supply is only 10, so we can allocate 10. All right. So how many allocations have we done so far? 1, 2, 3, 4. We need to have 6 allocations, right? So warehouses, factories, P1, P2, P3, demand. I think we don't need to find out the penalties anymore. Why? Because see, we have to meet the demand of, D3 and D4, and these two can only be met from P2. Okay, again let me repeat. Here we have only two warehouses that whose demand have not been met, D3 and D4. Now the demand of these two, D3 and D4, can only be met from the factory P2. All right, so what is the demand of D3? It's 7. So we are left with 3 here. And demand of D4 is 3. And capacity is also 3, so allocate 3 here. So there, we are done with the allocation. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 allocations. All right, so show the final allocation. So you'll notice that the demand, okay, will be 0 because all the demand has been met from the capacity. So capacity will also be 0. So finally, this is your final allocation. Okay. So what will be your total cost? There will be 5 times 20 plus 8 times 12 plus 7 times 40 plus 2 times 15 plus 3 times 60, plus 10 times 25. So this will be 100, this will be 96, this will be 280, 30, 180 plus 250, and if you add up you'll get 936. So this is how you solve the transportation problem using Vogel's approximation method.